Welcome again to the 2026 BC Gaming Capital Project Grant webinar. I'm Kalina Kwan, Executive Director of BC Association for Charitable Gaming, BCACG. There's one thing I've forgotten to actually do before I speak. I just want to check that everyone can hear me. So if you can hear me, around your screen, if you're familiar with Zoom at all, at the bottom probably you'll see a little hand. So if you can hear me, can you raise your hand? Okay, yes, thank you. I can see hands. So I will continue. So if you don't know who we are, BCACG helps nonprofit in BC access the BC Community Gaming Grant and also the BC Gaming Capital Project Grant. If you need help with your gaming grant applications or have questions about the gaming grant guidelines, please get in touch. We host webinars regularly as well as online drop-in Q&A sessions. And you can visit our website, bcacg.com, to see upcoming events. And because now you've joined one of our webinar, you'll also be sent information if we have new webinars going on. So today I'm very happy to introduce our presenter, Amy Bond. Amy is the Outreach and Policy Manager of the BC Community Gaming Branch. And Amy is joined by her colleagues today, Benson Isumwani. He's the Manager of Audit and Reconsideration. So for those of you who were here last year, you may remember Amy. So Amy will go through the presentation first, and there'll be lots of time for questions. If you have any questions that you would like to, you don't want to forget, on the top right, probably of your screen, there is a little question mark icon. And if you click that, you can type your questions there, and we'll Amy and I and Benson will try and answer that at the end of the presentation. We have left time to answer questions. It's might be easier to bunch all the questions that way. But if you want to ask your question yourself, when we come to that point, you can also unmute yourself, raise your hands, and you can ask your own questions. If there's any question left unanswered, we will send the questions to those to all of you who are here today. On the top right of your screen, you will also see an icon that looks like a little document with a paper clip. And if you click there, you can download the 2026 guidelines as well as the presentation that Amy is using today. So with that, I will hand it on to Amy, and I can see that actually we now have 80 people, so that's great. So Amy, over to you.
Great, thanks so much, Kalina. And thanks everyone for joining today, taking some time out of your busy schedules to come and learn about the capital project grants intake for 2026. So I'm going to get right into the presentation here. Before we start, I do want to pause and acknowledge with deep respect the work of community gaming grants takes place across the unceded territories of more than 200 distinct First Nations throughout what we now refer to as British Columbia. So we recognize that these lands have been cared for by Indigenous people since time immemorial, and we're committed to learning from and with the communities whose territories we are privileged to work on. Today, I'm calling in from my home office in the lands of the Lekwungen people, known today as the Esquimalt and Songhees nations. I raise my hands to them, their ancestors, elders, knowledge keepers, and future generations for their stewardship of this land, in which I am grateful for the opportunity to live and work. I encourage everyone to take a moment and consider what territories you're on and what that means to you. So agenda for today, here's what we're going to go over. We'll do a bit of an overview, talk about what's new, changes to the guidelines this year, organization eligibility, so who can apply, project eligibility, what kinds of projects we fund, financial requirements for the grant, a little bit about how to apply and required documents, that type of thing, assessment and scoring, so how these grants are scored by our staff, spending the grant, and reporting out on it. And then we'll give you some extra resources and leave time at the end for questions, of course. So for an overview, capital project grants, we have a $5 million budget for this intake this year. The goal of this is to help nonprofits complete capital projects or purchase major acquisitions. It is a competitive grant process, so that just means not everyone kind of gets a piece of it as it is in our program grants. I think it's about 20 to 25% approval rating for this. There is prescriptions around what the total project cost can be. So from $20,000 up to 1.25 million is the total value of a project that we'll fund, and the grant can provide between 20 and 50% of the total cost of the project. So the grants will be, it says 20,000 there. I think for a $20,000 project, we could provide a grant as small as 10. That's an error there. Up to a maximum of 250,000. Applicants have to demonstrate that matching funds have been secured and available at the time of the application. So what's new for 2026? Not much, mostly just clarifications of existing policy. So we have more clearly defined acceptable funding percentages for the matching fund requirements. 20 to 50% of the whole project, you have to have that other funds available on hand or lined up before you apply to complete the project. If you have restricted funds, using those, what kind of in-kind contributions can be considered or not. We've strengthened the project readiness requirements. So again, not really a change in policy. We're trying to more clearly explain what kind of documentation we're expecting to see. I'm trying to help applicants understand their best course forward when applying, including things like approvals, permits, or where you are at that process if it's not yet complete to attach. Financial verification, demonstrating how to demonstrate project readiness. We've updated the reporting guidance. So we've made some minor updates in the language, again, to improve clarity around what we're looking for project completion reports. If you are successful in getting a grant, how you need to follow up with that. And then, of course, the intake dates. So applications will be accepted from July 17th, that's this Friday, up until August 31st. And the final funding decisions will be sent out by December 31st. So our intakes always do go, it's a full day. So it'll be open at 12:01 a.m. Friday morning and close at 11:59 p.m. August 31st. All right, applicant eligibility. So all of the community gaming grant intakes have the same basic applicant eligibility criteria, whether you're applying for a program funding, PAC or DPAC, or for a capital project. So for the 2026 intake, again, all applicants have to be pre-screened by having been approved for another grant sometime in the last 3 years. So if you have received a program grant, a PAC or a DPAC, or even a capital project grant in 2023, 2024, or 2025, you are eligible to apply. So this allows program staff to direct more attention to the projects that are being requested, ensuring that feasible projects that provide the maximum benefit to their communities are being supported, rather than spending more time screening for structural organization eligibility, governance and structure, things like that. Successful applicants must wait for 2 years before they can apply for another capital grant. That's if you get funded for one. If you don't get funded, you can keep applying every year until you do get approved. You can still continue to apply for your program grant or your PAC or DPAC grant every year. So those are two separate intakes. The intention behind this is to provide opportunities to as many nonprofits as possible, including smaller community organizations that are relying heavily on volunteers and don't have access to professional grant writers. Overall, eligible organizations for all of our intakes, you must be a not-for-profit organization operating primarily for community benefit, delivering or supporting programs within our 6 sectors, which is arts and culture, sport, environment, public safety, human and social services, and of course the PAC, DPAC, that's parent advisory committees, sorry, and district parent advisory committees. You must have reasonably open membership so the community can be involved, have a volunteer board and a voting membership. So to ensure that you've got democratically chosen board members, we're looking at having at least double or more the number of voting members to board members. So there is an opportunity for people to, for those board positions to change over. At least 2/3 of the board have to be here resident in BC. We're not looking to fund out of province nonprofits. And then board members are doing this as a volunteer role. They're not receiving remuneration. They can get costs, out of pocket costs reimbursed, but it's not a paid role. An ineligible organization would be a for-profit business. Member funded, I'll just take a moment to explain that. It is a legal designation under the Societies Act. So if you have registered as a member funded society, it will say this on your constitution. You can also reach out to BC registries to inquire if you think that you may be. Member funded societies exist primarily for the benefit of their own members and can distribute money and other property to its members upon liquidation or dissolution. So for that reason, they're not eligible for many types of government funding. It does not mean that you get dues or funds from your members. That's okay. So specifically legal designation. We cannot fund any political parties, political action groups, or lobby groups. We do not fund any other level of government, whether it's federal, provincial, regional, municipal, First Nation governments, any other local government, or any of these government operated facilities, whether it's a healthcare facility, education, schools, colleges, libraries, museums. If it's operated by a level of government rather than a nonprofit, then it can't be supported. If you do have, say, like a community museum that's run by a local nonprofit and you just get an annual grant from the city, that's fine. Yeah, so again, any kind of educational institutions or schools we cannot fund, or religious institutions. Um, we'll just say about religious institutions, we understand many of these do operate as nonprofits in the sense that they don't generate a profit and they run programming for community benefit. They're typically not eligible by default as they don't meet the structural requirements of having a democratically elected board of directors and open voting membership in the same way that other nonprofits do. However, a not-for-profit organization that's affiliated with a religious institution or has a statement of faith is still eligible if they meet those other eligibility requirements. So it's just the institutions themselves that can't apply. If you have a nonprofit on the side to run your community benefit programs, that can be looked at. Also, if an organization has not received gaming funding within the past 3 years, they can't apply. If they're not in good standing with Community Gaming Grants Branch, this could mean you've got outstanding reports from previous grants or unmet conditions. You can look at your previous grant letters to see if you have anything outstanding. I do strongly encourage you to send in any overdue reports or meet any conditions that have been placed on you prior to submitting an application. So you're going to be looking at your track record and making sure that there's little to no risk in providing grant funding. So we'll go into the categories here. Project categories include facilities, infrastructure, acquisitions, and repatriation. So facilities project, typically construction of new facilities, very often renovation or ongoing maintenance. It could be a purchase of a used building and a renovation in that. Could be interior or exterior renovation. So we'll often see things like putting in a new commercial kitchen, updating bathrooms. Maybe the whole facility needs new flooring or needs a new roof. We've put in HVAC systems, elevators, completed tennis and soccer domes, installed special lighting, curling club refrigeration often falls under this. As examples of community infrastructure, this would be developing public amenities that are improving residents' quality of life. So things that are out in the public, very often it will be on public land, not always. Things like playgrounds, outdoor structures, community space. This could be a skate park. This could be maintenance of some trails, hiking or walking trails, a public wharf. We've even funded ecosystem restorations. Acquisitions are fixed capital assets that are being used for long term. It has to be owned by the applicant organization. So this could be things like vehicles, this could be computers or other software, website. We've built, paid for new websites to be built. It could be other office or technical equipment, audio visual, sports equipment, boats, things like that. So it's a fixed capital asset that's owned by the applicant and being used long term, typically to help it deliver its programming. And then the final one, repatriation, is a return of cultural belongings or artifacts to the rightful owners or community. So this can include transportation, purchase of the items if that's necessary, and ceremonial activities around that. And an example could be a community museum returning artifacts to the community of origin. So within the facilities and infrastructure, these have to be undertaken by an eligible organization for community benefit. The outcomes of these projects, these should be accessible to the public upon completion. We're showing us what is accessible if there's programming that it allows to happen, if it's in offices. And it must be located on either land owned by the eligible organization who's applying, land leased to that applicant organization on a long-term basis, or on public land. And then there will be different things that we're looking at, whether it's a state of title, whether it's a signed lease, or permission from the governing body that manages the land. Acquisitions and repatriation are a little different. You won't have those statement titles or leases. So we'll look at acquisition. Must be necessary for the delivery of a program or service. So if you're purchasing, a van, tell us what it's used for. Maybe it's to move kids from an after-school program to activities. Maybe the computers are needed to get people registered for a program. The acquisition is purchased by the applicant, primarily for community benefit. There has to be a direct tie to how the community is benefiting from this. It's for the purchase of a fixed capital asset for long-term use, and you have to own it. So for repatriation, not-for-profit organizations can apply to either receive or send the cultural belongings. This one's a bit different because we know there are a lot of communities and entities involved that don't fit into the community gaming grants definition of the nonprofit. So, but we do need the not-for-profit organization to be the applicant. All of the research, negotiations, determination regarding ownership has to be completed prior to applying. So all of that is laid out. We will help you complete it, that money that's needed to either, purchase the items, to transport them, to hold the ceremony when they go home. But it's not for sort of the planning or find out who this belongs to. We don't have subject matter experts on hand to verify that, so we are relying on the applicants to have all of that sorted before you apply. Just see what else I have there. So if the applicant for funding for a repatriation project is acting on behalf of either party involved, the sender or the receiver, we're looking for a letter of support signed. So as much demonstration that this has been ironed out ahead of time as possible. But now that we know what types of projects we can apply for and maybe how to categorize those when you apply, we'll start looking at some of the other requirements. So for financial requirements, applicants have to have that separate gaming account. If you've got gaming funding before, you should still have this set up. If you have been funded in the last 2 years, you will have already sent us an updated direct deposit form, so that should be fine. If you haven't applied since we switched to our new system, there will be a new direct deposit form that we need you to fill out, and that will be on our website, and it's highlighted in the guidelines. As far as matching funds, it's really important applicants understand you need to demonstrate those matching funds are secured and available to complete the project. So if you have a project that's $100,000 and you're requesting only 40,000, you need to demonstrate you have 60, not the corresponding 40. We need to know that you have enough with the grant funding and what you have on hand to complete the entire project. You're providing supporting documentation that verifies the source and availability. If you don't have cash in hand already, but you do have another funder who's made a commitment, you can attach their commitment letter. If you have cash on hand, you can attach your balance sheet or your bank statement. We do expect any funds, if you have any restricted funds that have been designated for the project, you're going to use those in full toward the matching fund requirement. And then also, as mentioned, be up to date and in good standing with your gaming account summary reports. When you want to apply, you will be applying online. I've got the link in there, and these sheets, this sheet is a handout where Kalina pointed out, and these are live links. You have to attach all of your documents to the application, so you can't mail things in or email them later, and then late submissions are not considered. I'll just make a note and say no exceptions are able to be provided to those rules. Some of this is in part with how we've set up the application forms in our new system. If you do experience technical issues, please reach out to us. Contact the branch before 4 p.m. on the final day, August 31st, to request assistance. If we get a voicemail that came in at 11 p.m. on the last day of closing, we're not going to be able to do much to help. So please don't wait to the last minute. Apply early, start your application. You can save it and work on it over time to make sure that you're not having any of these issues. Things that you're going to need before you start. You need your BCACG account. So the business profile is preferred, but we're still accepting the basic BCACG account as well. You need your LNG file number. This will be on any of our other notification letters to you. Or you can phone or email us to request it if you can't find it. Current mailing address. What sector that you usually apply under. So arts and culture, sport, etc. A project category. So which of those 4 categories does your project fit under? A project address and location, we'll need that as well. And if you have any legal name or fiscal year-end updates, have the information ready to demonstrate that that has happened if you need to update that. And then again, the gaming account information. Most applicants won't require that FIN 312 direct deposit form, but if you have not applied or you have not been funded in the last 2 years, we will need to enter your account coding into our new system. So other documents that you'll need to apply. So most recent financial statements. So that's for your most recently completed fiscal year and current year organization budget. You'll also need a project budget for the specific project you're requesting funding for. Project description, description of the community benefit and public inclusiveness, project timeline, so we can see when it's started or when it will start and when it plans to be complete, a risk management plan, and then like an ongoing operational viability or asset management plan, cost estimates and third-party quotes. And again, that documentation for the matching funds. Show us how you have that in hand. For approvals and project readiness, we're looking at things like permits or regulatory approvals, if it's applicable, possibly landowner permission, a lease, title, or some type of authority to occupy. There may be environmental or archaeological approvals required. Repatriation agreements and support letters. So having those documents written up and signed ahead of time. Again, evidence of those matching funds and any other documentation demonstrating project readiness. When we get into this, the assessment and scoring, I'll tell you how our staff work through these submissions. So first, the applicant has to meet all of the mandatory eligibility criteria before they have their project scored. That is ensuring the applicant meets the eligibility criteria. You've had funding in the last 3 years and you still meet all of that criteria. The project is eligible and you have the financial requirements. Projects are then scored against the assessment criteria, which I'll go through with you here. And then once the ranking process has been completed, additional considerations may be applied. So sector distribution, regional distribution, things like that. And that really depends on how many submissions we receive, how much money has been requested compared to our available budget. We'll go through how the scoring is done. So alignment with sector objectives is worth 25% of the entire score, and that's broken down into community benefit and inclusiveness and accessibility. So there's separate fields within the application form where you can tell us why your project is needed, how the community will directly benefit from it, how many people in the community will it impact, and how is it open or inclusive, or if it is restrictive, say like a daycare, why would that be? So that's a great example of one there. You're not going to have a daycare open to the general public. It's going to be open to the families who have kids in the daycare for safety reasons. But you could tell us how many people come through and how often those families change over. Project feasibility is worth 35%. I strongly advise all of the applicants to focus a lot on this section. This is where most applicants will lose points. So showing project planning is well thought out. Providing detailed information to demonstrate that a feasible project can be accomplished within 36 months. Identify and address risks. So documents for this section will be project timeline, project risk management, any appropriate approvals, your state or title of license to occupy, ongoing viability plan. You can see the table on page 22 of the capital project guidelines for detailed descriptions of each assessment category. I will just say for feasibility, no detail is too small. Staff want to ensure that all projects that are being funded are carried out as described. Grant funds may have to be returned if the projects cannot be completed. So we really want to avoid that. For the remaining percent, we've got financial considerations is also worth 35% of the overall score. We're looking at financial feasibility and the current financial position. Do you have the funds available to complete the project? Is this feasible that it's going to happen? So we're looking at your financial statements to see what you have on hand currently and that you're operating in a way you're not going to go under, making sure that you're a feasible organization. Your project budget should include assumptions, contingencies, projections. Again, we're looking to see if there are funds that are restricted for the project, that those are identified. You might highlight it on the balance sheet or point it out to us. And again, demonstrating those matching funds. So it could be bank statements, could be funding letters. For in-kind, tangible donated materials and equipment may qualify. So if someone is giving you wood to build something that qualifies. Volunteer time or donated labor, land value or discounts do not qualify for in-kind for the matching funds. Special project features. So this is worth the remaining 5%. This covers how the project includes climate action or energy efficient features that may reduce the organization's greenhouse gas emissions, lower the long-term operational expenses, or improve the use of human or technological resources. It may not be applicable to all projects, but if you think about it, you might see that it is, and applicants can note if it's not applicable and why. I do encourage you to consider it and see if you do have any environmental efficiencies in your project, as it's 5% that you may not want to lose out on. Additional considerations. So after the scoring is completed, management may look at things like equitable geographic distribution across the province, or to distribute funds across all of the 6 grant sectors. If it comes down very tightly, preference may be made to support Indigenous projects or even for grant size to ensure that the entire $5 million is distributed without exceeding. We don't want to go over or under that grant budget, so we get as close to it as possible. And I'm going to turn it over to Benson, our Manager of Audit and Reconsideration now.
Okay, sorry about that. Thank you very much, Emmy. And now that you have received the grant funds after so much effort, you are happy the money has hit your bank account. We want to tell you what we expect from you. We at CGG, So basically, the grant funds are supposed to be used to cover expenses directly related to the project, not for your regular program activities. So you cannot use the grant funds for purposes not approved by the Community Gaming Grants Branch. So expenses outside the project cannot be done. You cannot reallocate it to a different project. So any modification to the project already approved by CGG has to be pre-approved before you do that, you know. So next slide, please. Spending rules. What do you mean by spending rules? We are looking at how we expect those payments are going to come out from the gaming account, of course, because the money went into the gaming account in the bank. So all expenses are supposed to be disbursed directly from the gaming account as much as possible. But sometimes you understand that grant funds could be um, by transfer, it could be direct payment, or you could pay from your general account and then reimburse from the gaming account. We understand that. So, but every such disbursement, it should be reconciled dollar to dollar. And when making such payment, we expect it should be through either a check or electronic transfer. Usually the check will be signed by two signatories or who will not be related, who cannot be related. And same with electronic transfer too. And of course, one of the signatories to the transfer or the check should be an officer of the organization. And then we expect that you return all invoices and receipts related to that project for at least 5 years. And project must start within 12 months of receiving the grant. And we expect the project to be completed within 36 months of the first or receipt of the funds from the branch. Next slide, please. We are reporting and completion. What are we looking at? We expect as this project is being done, of course, you are going to be submitting the regular gaming account summary report. There's a section of the gaming account summary report that includes any money received for capital projects, and then this will be uh, complemented with the capital project supplement that tells us in details um, how that capital project funds has been used during that year. So, and we expect, of course, the rules that apply to gaming account summary report, which we expect you to submit the gaming account summary reports, or GASA as popularly known, within 90 days of the financial year end. It doesn't matter if you received any funds during that year or not, as long as you have some funds remaining in your gaming account. So in the gaming account summary report, you have a section, like I mentioned before, that allows you to put the amount received in terms of capital project for the capital project fund, and then a supplement where you give us details, and we are supposed to have that. And when you are reporting this, any disbursement must include details like the date, the check reference number, the payee, the purpose of the payment, the amount paid. So that is very important because we need to have an audit trail in case the project is being audited. Next slide, please. The most important of this is the project completion. When the project is completed, we need a project completion report. As part of the completion of this project, which will have, when you have the project completion, you'll have both the GASA, the CP supplement, and the project details telling us what the community benefits of this project, and some photographs, maybe minimum of 3. You send this report to us for us to know that the project has ended and is wrapped up. Without this report, if we don't get the report, it's one of the red flags that can trigger an audit to say, oh, what's going on? This project has lasted for 3 years. There is nothing, we don't have any report to show that it's been done. we're going to go have a look what is going on with the money we disbursed. That's why regular reports are very important to uh, for us in CGG and for the organization to show transparency that what is going on. You need to keep us in the loop. If we are not getting the reports, the conclusion, we can infer wrongly or rightly that something is wrong. So this we cannot overemphasize the importance of keeping the branch in the loop by giving us regular reports, both GASA, the CP supplement report, and then the final project completion report at the completion of the project. At this point, Amy, okay, okay, you are muted.
Sorry about that. I was muted. Thanks so much, Benson. We'll just go to this last page of resources and contacts before we move to questions. So I do encourage applicants to look at the website. There are example documents for everything that we ask for. There are frequently asked questions up on there. There's a lot of resources online. So our website is showing here for community gaming grants. Go there and then navigate to the different pages. You can email us here as well at communitygaminggrants@gov.bc.ca. You can also phone us at 250-356-1081. It is one grant analyst managing that phone every day. So if you don't get through, please leave a message. You will get a call back within 24 hours. You can also reach out for the community outreach manager. So that's me. I can help applicants one-to-one with complex issues. I also deliver workshops to smaller targeted audiences throughout the year. So hit me up if you have questions about that. And there's my email there. Again, we couldn't do what we do without the team at BCACG. So we're including their information here as well. British Columbia Association for Charitable Gaming, where Kalina is representing. They're representing charities and community groups to promote access to gaming revenues, and they can help answer questions as well and assist you with your application. So I've got their website up here and their email, gamingquestions@bcacg.com. As well as that, there are regional community charitable gaming associations around the province. So the CCGAs are like a smaller version of the BCACG. They also receive grants to help local nonprofits access grants. There's one in Dawson Creek, Northern Lights CCGA, that helps serve the Northeast. Central Okanagan Community Gaming Association is based in Kelowna, serving that region. Chilliwack Fraser Valley is serving that region. And then on Vancouver Island, there's Charity Works that's serving the island here. If you're in a region that doesn't have a CCGA, please do reach out to the BCACG as they're the provincial organization and can support any other regions without coverage. So thanks very much to everyone for coming today. Please raise your hand if you wanted to ask a live question or use that Q&A function in the app.
If there's no more questions, I would just like to say again that the presentation that Amy's using and also the 2026 Capital Grant Guidelines, you can download right away on the top if you click on the Material tab, which is like a little document with a paper clip. As you can still download it now before we say goodbye and turn off the webinar. We have a lot of thank you. Thank you everybody for joining us, and also thank you Benson for guiding us through part of the presentation. And again, if you have additional questions, feel free to contact any of us and we'll try our best to help. So with that, I will wait 1 minute for people to download that information, and then we'll say thank you and goodbye, everyone. Thank you, Amy, and thank you, Benson.